Okay, so we're here with a just a kind of a brief StarMade episode. It's about 20 minutes long. This is about the new update that's going to be coming out. This is the dev build that I'm running. Because I'm a server operator, I get privy to certain information, and they said that this build, the latest build for the dev build, was stable, so I decided to log in and start a new world and get the dev build and check it out. And there's a lot of really exciting stuff that's going on. They're going to be implementing. Hopefully a lot of new players and a lot of existing players are going to be coming back to the game because recently we've been having kind of a lull with servers. I've been noticing that with the Christmas season coming up, I think that some more people are maybe having a little bit more time off. Maybe they're playing a little bit more. I'm seeing maybe 20 people on some of the bigger servers, whereas just maybe a couple weeks ago, the most I ever saw was like 10 people on servers. And what you're seeing here is just it's just going to be kind of some random stuff that I went around. I didn't completely detail everything out in this video just because I want to leave some surprises for you as well. And so we're entering a world here where I already started it. I wanted to see what happened if I warred one of these factions, if I started to attack them. And so I initially start out with one of my ships that I admin warped in, and I was just completely slaughtering them. And you can see one of the bases here that I destroyed. And well, essentially the way that this works is the AI factions are constantly moving. They're constantly doing things. They're mining, they're defending. They all have different functions. They all have different things that they're set on doing. And you're going to see here how you can see that. When I first started, I immediately noticed that there was a whole bunch of different trade guild ships that were just flying around all over the place. And if you played StarMade, like right here you can see some of the movements. Since they hate me, you can see that a whole bunch of ships are on their way to try to intercept me. And so when I'm in the sector, what they'll do is they'll keep coming at me. Now, I had destroyed the base that they had claimed the faction, or claimed the system from. And I noticed that right away, they don't lose access to that system. But just now, if you notice, all those ships just disappeared and the system became unfactioned. So that's kind of interesting. It seems like the AI code is what actually handles that now instead of the base code. Normally, as soon as you destroy that base, that system is unclaimed. That's not the case here. It takes a little bit for it to catch up and figure out that that system's supposed to be unclaimed. And if you look inside of a system and you're not actually in it, you can't see what's going on. You can see that there's bases, but you won't see all the lines. You only see the kind of the far trade route type things that are happening. You can see the green line over there. But once you go into that system and you actually scan it, then you'll be able to see what's going on. So here I had a little bit of problem where the game just decided to shut down on me. I don't know how stable this is exactly, to be honest. I'm getting some null pointer exceptions. Here we can see that I had a crash. I don't know if that's just because I was recording and my system couldn't handle it. I don't have the best of computers. This is a 5-year-old or 6-year-old budget gaming PC, so I have an old 550 Ti video card. You know, and it's served me pretty well for a while, and my computer's not as bad as some other people's computers who play StarMade where they crash where you have like a 20K ship. Okay, so here I've restarted the server. I restarted the single player game. And this is where I was going to move around a little bit. I wanted to show what things look like when you're at peace with them. By default, you're at peace, you're neutral with everybody. And the way the point system works is you basically start off with like a little bit of good favor with each one of the NPC factions. And if you do something hostile to them, then you lose points, and so if you do something like trade with them, you get positive points. And they have all sorts of different configs with this. I think they're really listening to the community when they decided how to make these configs, and it is insane how many different things you can configure with these NPC factions. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of lines just in the main config alone. That's not even counting the configs for each individual NPC faction. So there's just a ton of different things you can do with it. It's kind of complicated. I was looking through it and kind of made my head hurt a little bit just trying to figure out what everything did. Documentation isn't really quite there, but there's a lot that's configurable. So I think this is going to finally allow for some more variability between different servers, if people can figure out how the hell to set these things up. So now there's, going through the new faction tab, there's a couple new ones. There's news, there's NPC diplomacy, then there's the old ones, which is faction news, members list, whatever. And you can see when they grow, you can see when they're at war with you or other factions. If they lose a section, then you can see it. So that's kind of cool. You can keep abreast of what's actually happening. And here I'm just going to try to show some of the stations. And there's a lot of, before you used to have your, with the way that it worked with bases, you had like pirate bases, derelict stations, and trade guild bases. Now a system will spawn, at least initially, with different types of bases. NPC factions, from what I can tell, they seem to have 3 different types of bases. They have their factories, they have their stores, and then they have their home base. And for stores, you just have your generic stores. Right now, I went to some of them. You don't seem to be able to trade with them, so I don't know what it is or how that's supposed to function, but it doesn't seem to do anything right now. And it'll actually be called the main store, and that main store you can trade with in person, or you can trade with it from a distance. It's on the trade network. And the NPC factions, they're constantly trading with each other. They're constantly sending envoys from one main trading facility to the next one, and you're going to see that coming up here in just a second. Oh, and this is the Trade Guild. The Trade Guild has its own faction now, so you can actually go to war with the Trade Guild if you want. One thing I noticed about the Trade Guild is they specialize a lot in mining. Like, most of their ships are mining. Mining. Just constant mining. And like I said before, they act different. They're not like a regular fleet. They'll actually wander around. And so if you're in the sector with a bunch of these Trade Guild mining ships, they'll actually be moving around left and right, up and down. You know, it really has this feel to it, like it's alive. Like there's maybe really derpy people on the ships, I don't know, but it really feels alive. And they're scanning the sector for asteroids, and when they bump into an asteroid, then they'll actually start mining it, which is interesting. Because typically with fleets, you just tell them to go to a sector, you tell them to mine it, and they just go to the asteroid and they mine them. There is no wander around until you find something and mine it type functionality. And I think maybe we're going to see some of these NPC faction AI. We're going to probably see that, I think, expanded to us through fleets. But right now I checked, it's not. You still have the same fleet commands that you had before. But I would not be surprised if we see that sometime soon. Excuse me, I'm getting a little bit tired tonight. But yeah, so I'm really hoping that this is going to bring back a lot of the players that haven't been around for a while. Me personally, I'm gonna go and I'm probably gonna just try to annihilate some of these NPC factions. I'm gonna see what I can get from them. One of the things I noticed is that with this update, Schema said that they're going to actually have inventories. So when you kill a ship, if it was mining or if it was transporting items, that you're going to be able to actually go and intercept them. And since you can see them on the map, as we can see here, you should be able to actually go and loot them, and you're going to go to war with them as a response to that, but you should be able to loot these ships as well. And I didn't do enough testing to see how true that is just yet. I just wanted to kind of get a first impression and kind of look around a little bit, look under the hood. But I did notice that if you attack a base, like a factory base, there wasn't anything in it. I even killed their home base, and there was nothing in it, no items. When you attack these bases also, after they're overheated, you cannot mine them for materials. It's a lot like the way pirate bases are. You actually have to buy the base before you can get those blocks. So this isn't going to be an easy way to just load yourself on blocks. Oh, also another thing I noticed is that there's different colors. You can see here that there's blue lines, but there might be yellow lines, there might be red lines, and so I think that means different things. It depends on what it is that individual ship is doing. What is its goal? Is it transporting items? Is it going out to mine? Is it going to defend? Is it going to attack someone? And so the way that it works with your relationship with that faction is based on the configs. What I could see is there's a few things that modify it. I didn't look too in-depth on it. I did notice two things that were interesting though. One is if you attack them, what happens is you will get a personal type of a negative against you. And there's two different types of values. You have permanent, or I should say semi-permanent, and temporary. So let's say you attack them, you might get a temporary negative 500 and a semi-permanent negative 50. And I think that the way it works is it goes down naturally over time, and maybe the semi-permanent one is affected by what sorts of things you do with them. Maybe if you trade with them, you will get higher up on the list. They do seem to have points though where they will stop trading with you. So if you go too much into the red, then you won't be able to use trading to get back on their good side. And I think then what it does is it looks at your, it actually looks at who your allies are. So if you ally with one of their allies, then that will give you points every turn. So it seems to work on the same sort of faction point system, where you have a turn every 60 minutes, for instance. This seems to have turns too. So every time a turn happens, you'll get back some of those points, and they'll get to be more friendly with you. And after a while, maybe they won't hate you so much. I also noticed that an individual's actions is reflective more on them than their faction. I got, I think, to negative 978 points against that one faction. There's the Outcast Beta, I think. And I had, I think, like 100 temporary points. So it was like 973 semi-permanent points and 100. And my faction had a negative 500 temporary points, and maybe like a negative 50 semi-permanent. So it seems like a faction is able to work against what an individual member did and kind of reclaim their good standing with that NPC faction. But that individual, on the other hand, that faction's really going to hold a grudge against that person. So I think that's really interesting how they do that. This gives me a lot of hope too, because traditionally when we've seen a lot of updates, like the shipyard update, there's no logic to control it. You can't just, a lot of the updates we've seen previously, there's no modding really. How is someone going to mod a shipyard exactly? What sort of configs are there to change how it acts so that one server can do things totally differently than from another? There's no configurability with it. Oh, and here we have a scavenger temp shop. These are funny. They literally say temp shop. And they're just these big blocks, and it contains a bunch of factory enhancers and power and a few shields. And they do actually have a pretty big diversity of ships here. I think there's like 5 or 6 we can see here. But they're all smaller ships. I looked inside the file format, and the way it works is you have a custom NPC folder now. So server owners may know about this, where you have your custom faction configs, your custom block config, custom block behavior config. Now you have custom NPC config. And in that folder, you have each one of the different factions. So there's 6 of them starting out, in this world at least. And each one of those has its own little zip file that has blueprints in it. So it's going to draw from those different blueprints that's in the zip file. And then they have their own configs, and you can set spawn rates. You can set how they spend their money. So they might prefer to spawn one ship over the other. They might never spawn in a certain ship, or maybe they only spawn in one of a certain ship. And they use kind of a weighted system. So let's say you have 2 different types of miners, and you have 2 different types of fighters. You might give weight of 1 to one miner and a weight of 2 to the other miner. What that means is, if it has an available slot of, let's say, 5, or let's say, just make it even. No, let's say 5. 5's fine. So let's say they're going to build ships, and they want to build 5 worth of ships. This is an arbitrary number, but they're going to weigh the ships. So that one miner has a weight of 1, so they can spawn in 5 of those if they want. Or if they're going to spawn in the other miner, then they're going to have, that has a weight of 2. So maybe they can do 2 of those, the second type of miner, and 1 of the first type. And then it'll mix and match, depending on what is called for. If you attack them, then what they do is they, and here you can see trading. They're constantly trading with each other, just constantly. They're very promiscuous about it. They don't seem to give a lick about how far away they are, or whatever. I see blue and green here. I'm guessing that maybe green means it's incoming and blue means it's outgoing, and it depends on the sector that you're in. So if you're in a certain system, you will see blue is outgoing, green is incoming. And so I'm willing to bet if I were to go to that other NPC faction and I were to look at it from there, that green line would turn to blue and the blue line would turn to green. So they're constantly trading with each other. I don't know if that actually affects their own relationships with each other or not. I'm not sure how that works exactly. But I do know, based on the configs, that if you trade with them, you will curry favor with them. And they seem to have certain built-in functions like warring, allying, things of that nature. And if you get a good enough of a standing with them, maybe they'll actually make you an ally. And then if you're an ally, then maybe one of the other factions that's allied with them will want to ally with you. Maybe it helps you curry favor with them. Another thing that seems to affect your relationship status is how close you are. If you claim a system right next to theirs, then it constantly wears away with your relationship with that faction. And since these guys are constantly expanding, it seems to me that they're going to eventually war someone. They're going to just grow to be so big that they're going to bump into each other, they're going to bump into players, and they're going to war them. And so it's going to kind of organically create this sort of system where some of them are at war with each other, some of them are at war with people, and they're going to be taking into account the different alliances that are built. So if you are really close to one of these NPC factions, too close for comfort, and you're allied with someone else, that then maybe they're going to look at the other person that you're allied with badly too. Maybe it's going to detract on them. So I'm not sure all the ins and outs of everything, but it's very promising though. I think this is going to add a lot of kind of repeatable gameplay. It's going to make it a lot more interesting to actually play in the world of StarMade. I know myself, for a while I was just fighting against pirates just for the challenge of it. And some servers have come up with some really good pirates, and that was a lot of fun. And now they're going to be able to expand on that, and there's going to be different types of challenges, and there's going to be complex diplomacy going on. And so I'm really looking forward to this. Let me know what you guys think about this. And so that's the end of the video. So if you have any comments or questions, just let me know.